In the icy, desolate expanses of the Valtor system, the planet of Torgoth was a world of endless snowstorms, freezing winds, and hostile landscapes. The Torgathians, with their massive, boulder-like frames and thick, fur-covered skin, had evolved to survive in such brutal conditions. They were a fierce, proud species, one that knew no weakness. Their civilization was ancient, their technology advanced, and their resolve unshakable. Yet, for all their strength, the one thing they had never known was compassion. Lyra Torgoth, an influential and feared matriarch of her tribe, was the embodiment of this unyielding nature. She ruled with iron fists, demanding absolute obedience from her people. She cared for little more than the survival of her tribe, and even less for anything that could be considered a weakness, especially emotions. Love, kindness, compassion, these were luxuries reserved for weaker creatures. As the head of her family, she raised her children to be warriors, not to dwell on soft sentiments. But despite her hardened exterior, Lyra carried a secret fear, one she kept buried deep. She feared that her children, like so many of her kin, would be swallowed by the icy wasteland one day. Her eldest son, Karen, had always been strong, but her youngest, Ivra, was different. She was small, delicate compared to the other Torgathians, her body more attuned to the harsh winds that cut across the glaciers than to the violent storms that regularly swept the land. Lyra often found herself watching over Ivra, protecting her from the storms in ways she had never done for Karen. It was during one such storm, when the winds howled like a beast seeking prey, that Lyra's fears were realized. Ivra, too weak to keep up with the rest of her tribe, had fallen behind as they traversed the snow-covered plains toward a nearby settlement. The storm came on suddenly, a blizzard of unimaginable proportions. Lyra had shouted at Ivra to keep moving, but the young girl, shivering and gasping for breath, could not hear her. The winds were too strong, the snow too blinding. Just as Lyra turned to go after her, a figure appeared from the swirling snow. An alien. Human. Middle. The human, his face pale against the ice, his eyes wild with determination, staggered through the blizzard. His clothing was not designed for the harsh conditions of Torgoth, but he moved with a sense of purpose that left no room for hesitation. In his arms was Ivra, barely conscious, her small frame limp and trembling. Lyra's heart stopped in that moment. How had this human found her child? Why had he come? She knew the answer, of course. This was no simple traveler. This human was a soldier, one sent to protect the colony they had just established on Torgoth. Her colony, even if she hadn't welcomed them. The humans had offered their aid, their technology, but Lyra had refused them. She had believed she and her people could survive alone, without the help of these soft, fragile creatures. Now, here one was, carrying her daughter as though she meant something more than an inconvenience. Why? Lyra demanded, her voice sharp, cutting through the howling wind. Why did you save her? The human didn't answer right away. His breath came in labored gasps, his skin flushed with cold, his body shaking under the strain of the storm. Finally he spoke, his voice low but steady. Because it was the right thing to do. Lyra's eyes narrowed. The right thing. You're a fool. Her voice was harsh, but she could not mask the overwhelming sense of confusion that rippled through her. She had never known compassion, never understood it. To the Torgathians, it was a weakness. Their survival had always depended on strength, on being hard enough to endure the brutal forces of nature. But this human, this stranger, had defied all sense of logic to save her child. She's not dead, the human said, shifting his hold on Ivra. I'll make sure she survives. I promise. The words pierced Lyra's heart in a way she hadn't expected. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever cared enough to make such a promise. No one except her. The human's name was Captain Alden Hayes, a member of a human expedition sent to Torgoth to explore the planet and provide aid to its new colony. When he first encountered Lyra's tribe, he had been dismissed as an outsider, a fragile, soft creature who couldn't possibly understand the harsh realities of life on Torgoth. But Captain Hayes had seen the suffering of the Torgathian people, their isolation, their struggle to adapt to a changing world. And despite their resistance, he had offered help, bringing technology to improve their survival rates, medicine to treat their illnesses, and supplies to ease their hardships. But now, in the midst of this deadly storm, Lyra had to confront something even more unsettling: her own emotions. For the first time, she felt something beyond the cold certainty of survival. There was a warmth in her chest, a surge of something she couldn't name. It made her vulnerable. "You care for her?" Lyra asked, her voice quieter now, the edge of command slipping away. Hayes nodded, even as the storm raged around him. "She's just a child. I couldn't leave her to die." Lyra stood still, her heart racing. She was no longer sure what to do. For the first time, she wasn't sure if she had the strength to make the right choice. Ending. The storm raged on for hours, but Lyra and Captain Hayes managed to make it to shelter, where the rest of her tribe awaited. Lyra's people, rough and distrustful of the humans, were already preparing to move out, ready to leave behind what they considered a failed expedition. But when they saw her with Hayes, holding her daughter in his arms, their eyes widened. Lyra's gaze swept over them all. Her tribe was proud, but she knew they feared the soft, weak humans. They had resisted every offer, every chance to cooperate. But now Lyra had witnessed something that no one had expected: an act of compassion from a human, something far beyond the harsh instincts of her people. For the first time she realized something. Compassion was not a weakness. It was strength. It was what allowed one to fight for something greater than survival, something worth living for. "Do not touch my daughter," Lyra ordered. Her voice was commanding, but there was something else in it now. A softness, a humility. "I will take her from here. But we will not leave these people behind. They saved her." Captain Hayes looked at her, a glimmer of surprise in his eyes. "You mean that?" Lyra nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I do. We will learn from them. We will learn what it means to care for one another." The Torgathians, for the first time in their long history, stood in silence. The weight of Lyra's words hung heavy in the air. She had never known compassion, never thought it could be more than a weakness. But the human had proven her wrong. As Hayes turned to leave, Lyra's voice stopped him. "Wait," she said, her voice softer now, almost uncertain. "Will you teach us how to do this?" Captain Hayes smiled, the warmth of 1,000 unsaid words in his expression. "I'd be honored." Lyra watched him walk away, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Perhaps, just perhaps, the humans had something the Torgathians had never understood. A strength that came from compassion. And with it, Lyra knew they could build something more than just a colony. They could build a future,